Hi
I
there.
see a red light.
Yes, Mr. Stuart Crout. I believe that.
Hello?
Hello there. I believe that back in 2006, you were one of the very first videos to go viral in excess of 1 million views within a very short space of time with a rendering of on the Kazookeylele or Kazookeylele. I don't know. You'll have to correct
It's
me there.
Kazookeylele, 100%.
Kazookeylele. That's
Yeah.
the instrument with a rendering of the final countdown, which set the world on fire. What is that? Was that your first efforts, or had you been doing videos before?
So I started my YouTube account in 2006, which was the second year of YouTube's creation, and that video actually came out in 2008, even though it looks way older because it was shot in an old Hi8 video camcorder from the 90s. And so to give you some history, I picked up a ukulele and went busking with my friend, and then my friend left to go study music, and I needed someone to play with, and no one was around to play with me anymore. And so I invented something in which I could play with myself with
Right. Yes.
playing basically the keyboards. I added a kazoo on super last minute with some gaffer tape, and I just threw it on the internet. Initially, just as a like, hey friend, I miss you. Here's what I'm doing now. And it was basically I uploaded some videos beforehand that had gone pretty much nowhere, kind of sketch comedy, the occasional ukulele cover, but this was like the first sort of big deal. And I went to bed after uploading it, and I woke up in the morning and I had 18,000 views, which I was like, no, that must be a glitch or something. You know what? I'll just leave it. It's fine. I've got a gig tonight, so I'll go play this gig. And this is before the days of smartphones and like common Wi-Fi internet. And so I went to go do this gig, and I said to my friend Alex, who I was playing with at the time, I said, "Hey, one of my videos has gone kind of crazy on YouTube. It's got 18,000 views," and he didn't believe me. And because we were out at this gig, we couldn't actually check. So I got on the bus home after the show. Um, Actually, I've completely missed it. Just before the show, just before I met my friend Alex, I was walking through Bristol Square in Edinburgh, and there was this gaggle of teenagers, this like really young group of teenagers came running up to me, and they asked me to sign their maths jotter because they're like, "You're the guy." I was like, "What? What? Okay, I'll sure." I mean, they spoke about the video, and I was like, "Yeah, that's definitely me." So I signed their maths jotter, and I went to this gig. And then, so after the gig, I was on the bus home, and I had a little Nokia 3310 thing, one of those brick phones that couldn't withstand a nuclear attack. and my friend Alex, he obviously had gotten home before me, and he says, "Do you pockets? Have you checked the view count yet? Have you checked how big it is?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, it's 80,000 views now." I was like, "What?" It's gone from 18 in the morning to 80,000 views in the space of like maybe 16, 17 hours, which was insane at the time. Like that sort of growth was just nuts to me. And then I was having like a mild panic attack on the bus, going, "Oh my God, this is insane." And I get home and I check the thing, and I'm like, this is nuts. Like there's thousands of comments. It's kind of blowing up. And I'd never really experienced anything like this before. And I didn't get a wink of sleep that night. Um, And then the next morning over breakfast, I refreshed the page eventually after having numerous panic attacks overnight, and I had 1 million views. So in the space of just over 24 hours, it was 1 million views. And it's kind of grown from there.
Incredible.
It completely took me off my feet.
Yeah. So what was it? What was your next step in your musical career from there? Because I believe you're a trained sound engineer, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I'm a recording engineer by trade. At the time, I'd actually just flopped and failed out of a college course on sound production, and I was kind of moving into more sort of a live engineering thing. So I was doing live engineering at a place called the Forest Cafe in Edinburgh. It
Right.
used to be on Bristol Place. It was a voluntary run art space, and I was doing it voluntarily, basically to learn as well as doing. But yeah, like directly after the video went crazy, I just kept playing. I just kept playing with the band I was in at the time, not really knowing what to do. Me and my friend Fox, we decided that because we'd been busking already in 2006, we decided we would focus. We doubled down on the ukuleles and do more with the ukulele stuff. Um, and so the first thing I did after the video went viral was I posted in the video description, I'm going to go busking on this date. If you want to come and see me, come to the street corner in Edinburgh on the Royal Mile, basically just outside the office buildings, the council buildings on the Royal Mile. Yeah. And there was benches back then, back when you were allowed to sit down. And I was really late. I was like 15 minutes late because my bus was late, and I was like, oh god, there's going to be like people are going to be so annoyed with me. Oh goodness! And I get down there, and I'm trying to find a place to bus because there's a lot of buskers out. It's a really nice day, and I find a spot. And within 2 seconds of me putting my case down, I had a massive audience. Like I've never, like at that point, I'd never had a crowd that big before in front of me. There must have been like 40 people, which is like huge to me, like for a little busker with a tiny little ukulele. And they all stopped, and there was like TV crews like waiting off to one side, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to play this show. And the worst part is I was late, and I had a show in Glasgow that night with the band I was playing in, so I had to like rush through my set and then get on a train to Glasgow. But yeah, it went really, really well. In fact, there's footage of there was an interview directly afterwards as I was packing up, online. A guy called Hobbsy1 is the guy who did the interview, and yeah, that was the first thing I did directly after the Kazookeylele went nuts.
Right. And where the ukulele sort of had a resurrection of interest, or the start of the third wave, late 90s in America, with the likes of a guy called Jim Beloff, Ian Whitcomb. How about yourself? What attracted you to the ukulele?
An accident. It was a complete and total accident. So I was an impressionable youth, and I was really into heavy rock and metal and all these sorts of things. And then my mum took me to a show in Inverness at the Rakemoor Hotel in Inverness. There was a tiny little stage set up in there, and Hasty Dixie were playing. Yeah. And of course, there's mandolin, fiddle, guitar, banjo, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, I want to learn this style of stuff because this is a lot of fun. It's basically taking your hard rock songs and turning them into bluegrass. And I was like, this is amazing. This is the future of all music. And so the next day, I take a run down to one of the music stores. There was 2 music stores in Inverness at the time. And I was looking around, and I saw a ukulele, thinking it was a mandolin, and I bought it. Back when Mahalo were doing the £25 jobs, so it was £25 for the ukulele, and that came with a hard case as well, which was this, like, you don't get that deal anymore. And I got that, and then directly after that, we took a road trip to Skye, and I was stuck on Skye with no internet, no TV, no phone, no nothing. Yeah. For about 5 days, with just this ukulele and a how to play the ukulele book. And that was it.
Yeah. What I think is interesting is that these days there are, people understand that they've got to spend somewhere between £50 and £100 to get something that's going to sound half reasonable. Whereas back then, I think £30 was the benchmark in about 2005, for a year.
Yeah, you could get a reasonably good laminate for that price.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that, because I remember this would have been like in 1971 in Cheltenham, seeing a ukulele which was called a Star or a Stella. And it had like the violin pegs for tuners. It cost £1.50. So it must have been 71 because it was decimalisation. And it was just totally unplayable. Whereas even people used to joke about when you bought a cheap Stratocaster guitar or something, that you could hear it buzzing before it was even plugged into anything. With the ukulele, it's a case of there's the dull thud of the string and the intonation before you've even undone the box, and this lived up to those expectations. And the I cannot. I think it was as late as 2008 before there started to be a bit of a range of ukuleles in music shops.
Yeah.
Led by Lanakai and the other. Well, I don't even think Fender were really into them then. But
They had actually,
tiny
yeah. Fender had put out a couple of ukes by that point. My friend Tommy Brando had a what's the name of the guitar? It's Fender. It's not a Strat. It's a Telecaster shaped ukulele directly from the Fender factory, because he knows his friends he knows a couple of people who work there, and he had this brand new ukulele in, like, I think it was like 2007 or 2008, and he was just busking with it, and I was like, that's amazing. An actual Telecaster ukulele.
I think the Risa stick is a very nice ukulele.
I'm not a fan of the Risa stick, unfortunately. I'm a strong believer of wood changes the tone, and a direct pickup is just a little too unnatural for me.
Right.
Says the guy who made the Kazookeylele.
I'm amazed actually that you managed to lay your hands on so many of the Bontempi keyboards.
It's actually they're Schoenhut from a German manufacturer from the 1950s. The first
They
one,
look like the basic child's toy piano you could buy in Woolworths for years. That pink, pink, pink.
yeah, I know the one you're talking about. They're slightly more complex than that. And the inside, instead of bars, it's little poles. And they're so much easier to tune, which is really nice when you're building instruments. But I got the first one from my auntie, who found it in a car boot sale or a flea market in Inverness, and she gave it to me. And that was the first Kazookeylele built. And I'm not a luthier. I don't build instruments. I've never been able to build an instrument in my life. In fact, I'm looking at a neck that needs some stuff doing to it right now on my workshop table over there. So the first one was kind of held with popsicle sticks and hope. And some screws, but that fell apart, and I asked the luthier friends to make this one behind me here.
Could we hear a sample of the first
Sure.
great track?
Give me a moment. Let's see, where are we? Are we even in tune? Yeah, it's been a little while since I've done this, so. And then obviously the kazoo. That one. Yeah. The thing about this instrument is that so the actual instrument itself looks really well built, because it was built by my friend, who's a professional luthier. But when it came to me modifying it, I just used Velcro, so the whole thing just comes apart. So, and you might be asking yourself, why is there 2 rows of keys? So the reason that there's 2 rows of keys is the top row is in B flat major. There's no black keys. The bottom row is in A major. Between the two, we can get a chromatic scale.
Right.
With a couple of doubled up notes. So it's really complicated to play. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've got another piano that I'm currently working on. This thing's amazing. Sorry, I've unplugged my headphones completely by accident. There we go. So I've got this other piano here, which I got in, I think it was Portland in Oregon. I smuggled it home in my suitcase.
Right.
And it has black keys. So I'm gonna try and turn this one into a Kazookeylele at some point.
Right. Do you actually play harmonica at all?
No, not well anyway. I played. I think I got like a kid's toy one in the early 2000s, and I used to play it a lot while busking. Funnily enough, but it could only play in G, so I was limited to songs in G, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah. So did you does the history of the ukulele grab you at all?
It's interesting. I've got a very like potted history of the ukulele. I only really know like some of the bigger players from back in the day. Obviously, George Formby, and then like Tiny Tim and all that. But it's weird because because I came from the whole sort of parody side of things. I didn't really start by looking for pre-existing ukulele players because I essentially learned, other than my week on Sky with a little book of how to play the ukulele. I essentially learned how to play ukulele from YouTube. um, Back when that was still a thing, and because I was a guitarist, I'd just watch people's fingers rather than reading tutorials. And
Yeah.
so the big ukulele players to me are not necessarily people who are massive at all, like people like Molly Lewis, who used to be Sweet Afton on YouTube, who's a fantastic songwriter who uses ukulele as the catalyst
Yeah.
for her music. And then obviously Julia Nunes, another ukulele player who's turned into a sort of modern music star,
Yeah.
which is amazing. But and smaller known artists such as Johnny Flash Uke. One of the main reasons I put a kazoo on the Kazookeylele was because of Johnny Flash Uke, because he puts his kazoo in a harmonica holder,
Yeah.
sings Iron Maiden songs on the ukulele. But yeah, I never really got into like the history of players who play the ukulele too much, because I kind of felt that I wanted to be as unique and as interesting and as weird and as wacky as possible. It
Yeah.
wasn't until
I think
years later that I discovered.
that's true of a lot of instruments, and I know of a lot of creative people that I met, including the late Neil Innes, where they've said that yeah, you can learn to get going, but then afterwards, if you start getting into an anorak on the instrument, you can destroy what would have been your own style.
Mhm, mhm.
And I know that that's certainly true of the harmonica and the internet. There are so many players who'll tell you they can do a triple overblow on hole number 9, and you go, yeah. So where does that fit into a piece of music?
Exactly.
Yeah, because when people come at it from, I think, the songwriting, making music point of view, it doesn't matter. If a teacup and a saucer gave you the right notes, it's you're just trying to create something musical.
Mm.
The innate. I don't. Are you familiar with Bobby McFerrin and his videos where he gets an audience to all hum the pentatonic scale?
I have indeed. Yeah, he's jumping around the stage,
Yeah,
getting them to sing. He gives them the first two notes, and then the audience just naturally knows the rest of the scale. It's amazing.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
good.
yeah. But where was the next sort of step in your career?
Um, so it's very strange because the immediate years after the Kazookeylele went crazy, me and my friend Fox decided that we were gonna double down on the ukulele. We were gonna put out covers on the ukulele that you wouldn't necessarily expect, like Freebird and Queens of the Stone Age and System of a Down, like all these like really heavy bands, and
Yeah,
put them on the internet on YouTube and see how they do and see what sticks, while also learning a set to go busking with at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and see if we could drum up either an audience or try and get picked up to do some actual shows.
right.
And so we kind of pushed forward with that. And then during the Fringe, a bunch of American friends saw us performing And they were like, "Hey, we're doing a variety night. You should totally come down and play it, or variety night every night." And so we did. And they were like, "Oh, we're slowly stepping our game up. We're slowly getting there." But of course, my friend Fox kept leaving every year at the summer to go back to study music because they were the catalyst for me building the instrument was they left to go study music, and so every summer they would come back and we would busk. And then because that kind of got a bit difficult and we kind of grew apart, I still put out the occasional ukulele cover on YouTube, but I kind of focused heavily on the band I was in at the time, and decided to kind of put all that on the back burner till probably around, like for the solo stuff, till probably around like 2011, 2012, something like that.
Right. Yeah. So the so the your next move after that musically was it engineering projects or just
So I continued volunteering at the Forest Cafe. I ran a small analog studio in its basement. And then eventually my partner at the time, and with help of some government grants, I got some money together to start an actual recording studio at home in mobile. And that eventually turned into moving into an established rehearsal and recording studio space in Edinburgh called Tone Garden.
all right.
And so yeah, I was basically renting a room there and hiring their live rooms, and then that moved into Summer Hall, which is a massive art space in Edinburgh, which is extremely underutilized, but it's beautiful. It's the old uh, Royal Dick Vet college that's been turned into an art space. And yeah, so I've basically been doing solid engineering and session work since,
Right.
mostly in the studio.
Yeah. Which has all gone a little bit down the kibosh at the moment, presumably.
Exactly, which is why I'm doubling down on the internet stuff, doubling down online, because I have that established thing, and that's kind of helped me through. And it's all thanks to places, well, these companies and people reaching out to me to do stuff with them, such as Too Cool asking me to come and fill in for a residency for them in Berlin in 2011, and then obviously Britain's Got Talent in 2012. Um, they were like massive catalysts to me kind of focusing on the ukulele again.
Next step on YouTube full time. What does that
Mm-hmm.
look like?
So in 2016, my time with Tone Garden kind of came to an end. They were looking to get another engineer involved, and I was panicking. What am I going to do now, full time work wise? And so the space directly next door to Tone Garden was becoming available, and so I jumped on the chance at renting it. And so, as well as running the recording studio space, because I could still run that from the same building, I decided to kind of focus most of my time on YouTube and running my YouTube channel. And my goal was from 2016. I can't remember precisely what date it was, to upload a fully produced and well recorded cover every single week with a video. Um, and I think I managed that for about 6 months before I went a bit mad. And it was also around this time that I discovered a website called Twitch, which was formerly Justin TV, kind of live streaming and mostly games and stuff. But
Yeah,
a bunch of
that is another
musicians were
one I'm looking
utilizing
at.
it.
Mm.
Yeah, a bunch of musicians were beginning to utilize it for doing concerts and performances and stuff. So I jumped on that and tried to figure out how to make that work. And I'm still building on Twitch to this day. I'm still currently working on Twitch, but YouTube was the main source of all my stuff. So I've probably on my YouTube channel since 2016 recorded around 4 albums worth of covers, fully produced, in the recording studio with amazing equipment, that have only ever been released on YouTube.
Right. And
um,
presumably you cop revenue the from the advertising.
it really depends on, again, YouTube music policies is very different depending on which company is licensing the music. So sometimes it's a 50-50 split with the uh, copyright holder. Other times they just take all of your ad money outright. But in the grand scheme of things, YouTube ads isn't where I make any money. Like I make probably around £60 a year from YouTube ad revenue. My biggest sort of thing was kind of moving kind of any like larger fans over to Patreon.
Right.
And putting out behind the scenes how I produced this content, like how I recorded it, how to get like fun tones out of a ukulele that you wouldn't necessarily expect, like how to get distortion on an acoustic ukulele with no feedback. That's the dream. Right. And then also outtakes and bloopers and obviously Patreon a whole week before anywhere else. So it goes on Patreon first and then it goes on YouTube. And so I kind of gained a medium-ish following from that.
What is your go-to serious ukulele that you play?
My go-to serious uke.
Yeah.
It's probably
the ukulele. Yeah.
It's a Baton Rouge ukulele from a German company. It's over there. Do you want me to grab it for you? Did you grab it? In 2014. Oh God, what year was it? Yeah, 2014, I was touring with the orchestra and a company, I bought a ukulele on tour because my Kawai broke while I was touring and I needed to buy a ukulele. So I went to a music shop and picked up this, which is a tenor, Baton Rouge tenor ukulele. It's just had a new string put on it, so it needs a trim. But this guy here, I can't remember precisely what it is. It's the UR4 TCE. And I bought this, and it's just one of my favorite ukuleles. It has like a really like
solid
out of tune sound. Yeah. It's incredibly out of tune, but it's also got a pickup and you know tone and all that sort of stuff. And I really like these. And then the company reached out to me when they saw me buying this from one of their suppliers, and they gave me a couple more. And so that's my favorite sort of strum along uke because it's got the low G on it and it gives me some extra notes. But then I picked up this one from them, which is lovely. It's Bacote wood. Bacote. I can't quite remember the name of the wood. But again, it's from the German manufacturer, Baton Rouge. And this is one of my favorite sort of.
It's one of those labels, and every time anyone mentions Baton Rouge, I think of the song "Me and Bobby McGee."
Yeah,
busted flat in Baton Rouge. Busted flat in Baton Rouge.
When it comes to like ukuleles, the price doesn't really matter to me as long as it sounds good. As long as it's got like a rich tone to it. Doesn't matter if it's laminate or solid. It just has to sound good. And so those are my two favorite ukes just to play on the regular. But and any sort of ukulele will be fine for me if it can hold a tune. But YouTube full time from 2016 to fairly recently, and then because of COVID and a whole bunch of cancelled shows, I started doing some more gigs on Twitch. And then I had to move. I couldn't afford to stay in my studio anymore. I couldn't afford my studio to be there anymore. And I just started seeing someone from Gloucester, so I decided to move down there with all of my stuff. And now I'm here, and so I can
10 miles up the road from me.
But yeah, after I moved into here, I started working full time on YouTube again, and then something very strange happened. As a joke, I joined TikTok, which is a video platform in which you can only share videos that are 1 minute maximum in length. And I posted a video at the beginning of January. And by the end of January, I had like 5,000 followers on there. And then February has been insane. I posted a video kind of like a week ago. Yeah, about a week ago, I posted a cover, funnily enough, bringing back to our conversation of we did a video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles on the Kazookeylele. And it's now sitting at, oh God, I can't even remember what the number is on the thing.
I believe I've seen it.
2.2 million views. And now I have 84,000 followers on TikTok. So now TikTok has become more popular than my YouTube channel. And I'm just like, oh no, I'm having this crisis where I'm like, whoa, where do I focus?
Well, I suppose it is a sort of agony battle. So, how can we produce the whole thing in 1 minute?
Well, I try my best. My whole point with these platforms, where the platforms just like very quick and dirty, kind of like what YouTube used to be, if you ask me, before they started, having YouTube Premium and all that, where you just sit a camera in front of you and just play. I like the idea of just doing a live take. And so when it comes to places like TikTok, I can like sit down and just do a live take. It takes me like half an hour to get one decent take of a 1 minute song. And it's worth it to me. I just need to learn the material. That's the only problem. But yeah, so now my time is probably going to be fairly split because this is very recent. Like I just came back from cleaning up the old studio space. And in the space of a week, I've grown by 75,000 followers.
That's all good stuff. The what Where do your sort of musical tastes come from?
How far back do you want me to go? Do you want me to go from when I started playing music? That sort of stuff?
From the first music you used to hear.
Okay, so that far back, eh?
Mm.
So when I was very, very young and couldn't even speak, my mother was really into 80s metal. So stuff like Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, AC/DC was my dad's favorite band. And so I would sit in the car and try and sing along to Def Leppard song, even though I couldn't sing. And then skip forward to when music starts really making more sense for you, my young teenage years. I was heavily hooked on sort of pop punk, which kind of was, like Sum 41 and Blink 182 and all that sort of stuff. And then that kind of merged into grunge music because it was around 2004 was the 10-year anniversary of Kurt Cobain's passing. So they were marketing the crap out of all of that at the time. So I got very heavily into grunge. And then just before I discovered the ukulele, for about a year before the ukulele, I kind of fell madly in love with noise music. So like mostly sort of Japanese based noise music. So bands like The Boredoms and OOIO and Merzbow, these like fairly unknown bands, but they're like really just loud and upsetting to listen to, and your parents will hate them. And so I was really into it. Just imagine, Captain Beefheart's Trout Mask Replica, that very sort of avant-garde album. Imagine that amplified through a giant Marshall stack with about 16 drummers playing at the same time. And that's probably what you have when it comes to the Japanese sort of noise music scene of the time.
I must say, I know that getting on for, it must be at least 20 years ago now, one of the great viral videos that went round was a Japanese orchestra playing Smoke on the Water.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've seen this.
What is the name of that Japanese plectrum that they do on their instruments?
They play on the shamisen, but it's I don't quite know the name of the plectrum that plays it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's quite fascinating how instruments recycle, because whilst everyone credits, thinks of Hawaii, the arrival of the ukulele, actually King Henry
Portuguese, isn't it? The ukulele started off as a Portuguese instrument.
Yeah, but the tuning of a Renaissance guitar was GCEA. So
that's interesting.
So King Henry VIII would have been bashing out, green sleeves on his ukulele.
Do you mean Baroque or Baroque?
Baroque. As opposed to bear rock. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a genre of music that needs to be invented. The Baroque music.
Yeah.
Just take all these older, like Baroque tunes and put distortion on them.
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
So, the are you looking forward to when we can start doing live music again?
Kind of. Oh, yes. So I was looking forward to it until TikTok happened because I wanted to get back to playing with my friend John and doing the blues shows. I'm a drummer as well, and doing blues shows with my friend John and playing with him, and just having fun, and then also doing some uke tours. That'd be really nice. But then this TikTok thing happened, and I'm like, well, I've learned all these songs to the minute mark, and then I don't know anything past the minute mark. So if I'm going to do a tour or a set with these songs, I need to learn the rest of the song. I need to fill it like a 2 hour set with these minute long songs.
So, TikTok might be the final showdown.
Possibly. I think if you're an artist and a creator and you have the mindset of any sort of new platform that a lot of people are jumping on is like for it's just funny or it's not like the place to be for you. It seems fairly uncool. I think all artists should jump on as many platforms as humanly possible to give themselves a fighting chance against the wonderful world domination that we have of internet news media and music media and all that sort of stuff. Just to have that chance to be able to be seen by someone
Somewhere.
somewhere. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Stuart Crout, aka Pockets.
Thanks very much for having me, John.
Not at all.